Hi everybody, I'm Susan Mulvihill. Welcome back to our garden. No, this isn't the vegetable garden. I'm actually out in our backyard and I'm embarking on a project where I'm redoing a back bed. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, boy, this is going to be packed with all sorts of tips that would be helpful for you. So that's why this video came about. So let me show you the project, and then I'm going to do a 360 view of our back garden so you get an idea where I am. This crabapple tree is what we call the bird feeder tree because this is where we hang the suet and the various bird feeders that all of our little bird friends come into year round. This tree has been here for at least 30 years. In front of the crabapple is a perennial bed that we put in probably at least 30 years ago. And over the years, it has been growing like crazy. Well, so have the crabapple trees in our landscape. And so this tree is now shading the area more than it used to. This bed also was filled with daylilies. Well, daylilies love the sunshine, and so they were hardly blooming at all. They were falling all over the place. They were blocking the sprinklers to the other plants. And so I thought, you know, it is time for me to redo this bed. And I've got some really cool plants to put in and so much information to share with you. Now let's see if I can do a smooth, gentle 360-degree view of our backyard so you can see where the project is. There's the back deck, and when we sit at the kitchen table in there, I'm looking straight out to the perennial bed that I want to work on. And here's my bed. Now, if you're wondering about that very sort of golden, dead-looking area behind this spot, that's an area that does not get watered in the least. We live on 5 acres and we try to be really smart about our use of water, and that area does not serve a function, so we don't water it. And that's why it looks so sad at this time of year. Now, back to the project at hand. A few days ago, I dug up all of the daylilies. Boy, was that a job. And I just want to show you another area of the bed that's down a little ways from this project so you can see what I was dealing with. What a mess. And I certainly want to turn my attention to this area probably in the spring. But for now, I want to do the main area that we look at all the time. Now, my first tip for you is that fall is a perfect time to do this. For one thing, all sorts of plants are on closeout at your local nurseries, so you can get some great bargains. The weather is cooler, so that makes it easier on the plants when you've transplanted them into your garden. They will do much better. They'll have the fall and the winter to get their roots established, and then they'll grow like crazy when spring rolls around. If you have a brand new landscape, or you have an area of your landscape that you want to redesign like I do, it's so important that you take the light conditions into consideration. So is it full sun, part shade, full shade? All of these things are important. When you're choosing plants for your new project, you want to match the light conditions to what it says on the plant tag, because it will make all the difference in how well your plants grow. So take a look at the light and watch how the sun moves through the area during the day. In this area, it used to be very sunny until the trees really started branching out, and now it's become a partly shady area. So I was very careful as I chose my plants to match those conditions. Take note of how the area is going to get watered. You don't want any plants blocking the water like our daylilies did, so don't plant anything right in front of the sprinklers because they will definitely hog that water. Be sure to choose plants that will grow well in your hardiness zone. We are in hardiness zones 5B to 6A. I typically will choose plants that are even hardier than that because we occasionally will get some bitterly cold temperatures during the winter. And don't engage in what's known as zonal denial. That's where you think a plant is really cool and you really want to grow it even though it isn't hardy enough for your region. We gardeners are optimistic folks, and we often think that a plant will grow okay mainly because we really want it. Don't waste your money. Look at the height and width of plants to make sure they will work for the area, and plant them according to that, especially the width. That way plants can grow to their full potential. There are a lot of plant tags that have additional information, which I think is great. When I was looking for some short ground cover plants, I didn't want ones that spread with great abandon. So think of Creeping Jenny. Boy, is that a spreader. When I chose this ground cover, which is Ajuga Cordial Canary, I was reassured when I saw the description that said, not aggressive. Fingers crossed. When you're choosing plants, think about the type of maintenance they will require. I chose a variety of things, but primarily I'm focusing on shrubs because I know they take less work, and your body will appreciate you for that later. I've created a chart of the plants I've bought to help me with the planting layout because that's really important. So let's take a look at that. And I also want to mention that Proven Winners is sending me some shrub samples in a couple of weeks, so I need to leave space for them as well. So this chart has the scientific name, the common name, the type of plant it is, whether it's a shrub or a perennial, the light conditions they need, their hardiness zones, their height and width, that is especially important for spacing them properly, and then any interesting attributes that they have. So you'll notice in the light conditions, I've got full to part sun, full to part sun, full sun to part shade, and so on. And so I feel like what I've bought so far matches the conditions. So here's what I've bought so far, and of course I'll probably be adding in a few things in the spring. But I've got a really nice azalea here that's going to have peachy pink blossoms. That'll be lovely. I also have a shorter purple rhododendron. I've got some coral bells, Solomon seal, astilbe, a couple different kinds of hostas, some ornamental grasses, including this Japanese forest grass, which I fell in love with on a recent trip to see some gardens, and a few other things here. You'll probably notice that there's a little bit of a theme running in here, in that some plants have kind of a chartreuse accent to them, and I think that's going to look really pretty in those partly shady conditions. Okay, we're finally to my favorite part, and that is planting. That's the most important part, right? But a word to the wise, if you also make yourself some notes or some type of a chart like this, put it in a plastic bag because you know things are going to get dirty. It's going to be dropped onto the soil, and this way it'll keep it clean and readable. Well, that was a bit challenging to do, but I thought I'd spare you the details. So I have laid everything out based upon their height and spread. I also made sure that nothing would be hanging over the little pathway that goes along here. The 3 stakes that you see in the back mark where some shrubs are going, and it's time to start digging holes. So when you're ready to plant, you want to make the hole roughly the size of the pot. Gently knock out the plant from its pot, and the goal is to have this hole be the same as the depth of the potting soil that the plant is growing in. Because when I put this in the hole, I want the top of the surface of the potting soil to be even with the surface of the soil in the bed. So this looks just a teensy shallow. That's better. Then I'm going to move in the soil around the plant's roots. And once I have that done, I'm going to press around the perimeter of where the roots are so that the soil is making good contact with them. There we are. So that's a coral bells. Isn't that pretty? If you come across a plant that looks kind of pot bound or root bound, where the roots are really circling, just go ahead and pull them apart gently, and that will help the plant grow better. And there's about the right depth. Now you want to water everything in well, and that way it will get rid of any last air pockets and help the roots settle into their new homes. Be sure to water your new plantings on a regular basis. The goal is to have the soil stay lightly moist, and you need to do that until the weather changes and it gets cold and you start getting frost. I just have two last things I wanted to mention about the plant list that I created. First of all, while I was eating lunch, I discovered that I had listed something as a hosta. It was supposed to say heuchera or coral bells. So just in case you paused the video at that point to look at my list, I just want to make sure you know what the correct name is. The other thing is a little tip I wanted to share with you. So once I am finished with this list, I'm going to put it in the cover of my Western Garden book from Sunset. And that's because I have lists of landscape things like our orchard, for example, that is in there as well. And so it's a place I know I can find things later, such as a list of these landscape plants. So if you make yourself a list, consider doing that. Put it inside the cover of your favorite gardening book. Maybe it might be one of my books. Well, I need to finish watering everything in, but I'm very excited about this project. I hope that you found this video helpful, and really, when you address the issues that I mentioned, your plants will grow great and you'll be much happier with the results. Thanks so much for watching today, everybody. Happy gardening.